in most cases people are fired, but in your case your company is fired. How you found a job in the UK, being a migrant, where everybody is going back to their home country, but you found a job on a skilled worker visa.
It's a numbers game, getting a job, honestly, but irrespective of the market. I know people say quality is one thing, but every shot you don't take is a shot that you missed 100%, basically.
All right, guys, welcome to today's podcast with Sunny. Sunny is actually one of my flatmate from my previous accommodation. We know each other since 2022, if I'm not wrong. Like he was, he was one of my housemate in that particular building. And Sunny, first would like to welcome you on the today's podcast, and we'd love to cover up your journey about how you found a job in the UK, being a migrant, where everybody is going back to their home country, but you found a job on a skilled worker visa instead of trying other routes. So you've been lucky as well. So would like to hear your story on that too.
Yeah, sounds great, and thanks for inviting me on the podcast.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So Sunny, first let people know about your background, a bit of your journey, where you come from, what's your education looks like, and then your journey in the UK of getting a first job in the UK as well.
yeah, sure. So my background starts. I did my undergrad in automotive engineering in India in VIT Vellore. And during that time I focused more on formula student, like building a single seater race car with a group of students and going to international competitions. And that's actually where I leaned more on the, you could say, the managing and engineering team side of things. And that's when I shifted to the UK for my master's in engineering business management at Warwick University. And I understood that I was way better at actually doing all of this stuff, whether it's managing an automotive team or like a software development team or like launching products. And from that's where I was targeting roles such as program management, technical program management, product manager, product owner, so on and so forth. And after my student visa, I was on the book study work visa, or the graduate visa as they call it. And I found I applied for builder. Seemed like a really cool role at that point. It was a scale up, and it has been a scale up during that time. And the role was basically being able to work, be at the intersection of the product engineering teams, and actually developing products for the clients, like actually speaking with different clients, being able to work on 6 to 7 products or clients at the same point and bringing that out. So I started as a graduate project manager, worked as a technical project manager as well as a customer product manager, you could say, at the same time. And then I had quick progressions in builder, where I was an associate product manager and then a product manager for the customers in my
Sunny,
time.
I would like to stop you here. I think you have covered a lot of your journey from your education to Builder.ai. Let's talk about how you found your first job with Builder.ai. Um,
Mhm.
uh, so, were you on PSW that time, or you already got a sponsored role? And how did you find your first job with Builder.ai? In which year? I presume it 2022. If
Yeah, sure. So I guess I did one mistake of not applying as soon as I started my studies here in the UK. I started applying heavily towards the end of my studies, which was 2021, you could say. And then throughout 2021 and the first of 22, I was interviewing with companies, and I was looking for different roles at that point. So at that point, I'd shifted on the post-study work visa, and that's when I started my role with Builder in 22. And I was on post-study visa. I used up the entire 2 years duration that was there, and towards the end of that, Builder sponsored me. So when I joined as a graduate, I already told them about my situation, and they completely understood. They were like, once you're completed with this, and if you're still with us, we'll be more than happy to sponsor you.
Hmm.
So that's how I shifted from a student to a graduate visa, and then finally to a sponsored visa.
Okay, that's interesting. But the most interesting part was that I would say the Builder.ai was unfortunately not able to make the ends meet by 2024, if I'm not wrong. And
Uh,
which year?
25,
20,
25.
25, yeah. So 25, the builder.ai bubble got bursted. It was one of the very big startup which was booming. As you said, it was not even a startup, it was a scale up. And it was not able to survive, like ultimately whatever the allegations were put on that company. Perhaps you know it better how it used to operate. Once that is bursted out, how did you survive in the UK from 2025 to 2026? Because what I understand, like you were on a skilled worker visa with them, and then from there on, you are still in the UK trying to find a job. So give us some idea about it, because what our understanding is, like once your skilled worker visa ends, you have only 2 months time period to find a new sponsor. So how did you survive in the UK when Builder.ai was not in operations?
Yeah. So basically, the scenario which you mentioned is when like the sponsor is basically your company still there, and
Yes.
then they are like cancel your visa or you're moving someplace else. But since Builder.ai went into like a forced liquidation, what happens in that scenario is like a government administrator is appointed, and then they work on a long process to start winding down the company. And it is up to them that they have to inform the home office that okay, now this sponsor is no longer available, hence please curtail or finish the sponsorship of the people who this company is sponsoring. And from that point you get 60 days. So I would say luckily in my case that took a really long period of time, and I never got a curtailment letter saying okay, you got 60 days. And hence I was able to be here till my visa period ended basically. And
Yes.
that's how I was able to stay in the UK legally. I was constantly checking my e-visa status, ensuring I was able to generate the share code or the right to rent code, whichever one you wanted at that point, and keeping an eye on any emails that might come through to make sure that my status is legal, and it wouldn't cause me any issues in the future if I shifted to a different kind of visa. So just a slight difference, just because it's forced liquidation managed by a government administrator. I spoke with a few other people, like when we were going through this, and they said it's purely dependent on luck. Sometimes they are really quick and you'll get that 60-day curtailment letter really soon, or it might come after 6 months, or it might even never come in some scenarios. So it's purely dependent on luck. I'm not going to say it happens this way. I'm just going to say I got lucky in that aspect.
Hmm. Interesting. So let's quickly cover what the Builder.ai used to do, and what was your role there. But let me share my experience with Builder.ai, because I in my first startup I was running this startup fintech company, and I told you, if you recall. Builder.ai approached us to develop a software for them.
Yeah.
So we were quite intrigued by, when, because the AI was a new thing then, almost 22, 23, those years. So they were saying that they will develop the software using AI. But when we went through the process of how they will be developing the software, it was just like a normal software development company. So, so we
Yeah.
were just shocked. But I would like to know your working experience with the Builder.ai. How was it? Please share some insights from that.
Yeah, sure. So what I'll do is I'll just explain how it actually worked, and then I'll explain what my role was after that.
Sure.
So yeah, it's exactly like how you mentioned. It's a combination of your traditional software development, you could say, and then
Yes.
there's a mix of AI in that. So basically, we use something called as building blocks or pre-coded blocks. Like sign up login is going to be the same. So there is already a pre-coded unit of code over there which gets customized based on whatever the customer requirements are. And then it's sort of like this, the uniqueness is that it's an assembly line which uses these building blocks, a bit of AI to system together, and then some human interaction or intervention to add more customizations on top of it. And really towards the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, we were using AI a lot more, like not only at the code level, but within our workflows, creating stories, user mapping, so on and so forth. And we also it was also advertised that it's a mix of AI and humans. So I'm just gonna stick with that, and that's actually how it worked. I've seen it. Some parts, yes, we had code reviews done by an AI bot, so on and so forth. Some code could be written by the AI, but at that point, models were still being developed, like OpenAI or Claude. They weren't as powerful as they are currently, or even in the last year. So a mix of AI and humans is what happened. In terms of what my role was, you could say, in the current world, you could equate it to a deployment strategist or a customer product manager, where where my role, called as proctologist, would be split across the entire life cycle, which would be, once the sales team brought in a potential client, I would sit with them on spec calls or discovery calls to understand what software or application they're trying to build, map it out using our tools, the processes, work with the sales team to try and close that. And then in post sales, or in delivery as we like to call it, I would also lead, not that particular project, but could be any one of the many projects that we had, all the way from writing user stories, briefs, creating the tickets for the team, working with a designer to get the designs developed, and then working with a technical project manager, or whom we used to call a ninja, to create sprints, do sprint ceremonies, work with the engineering team, the back end, front end designer, developers, as well as a QA, and then follow the agile methodology that you could say is to develop whatever was plan, whatever was signed with the customers, all the way through ensuring it's live on the app stores or it's live on the website, and then hand it over to the customer success team. So very much deployment strategist or customer product manager, not only building what the client want, but also like guiding them, because I would be working on multiple projects and they would constantly ask us, what do you think we should do like this? And there's always the advice aspect or the slight consultation aspect which comes in,
Yes.
which you always have to provide, and the clients appreciate it. So that allowed me to grow and learn a lot, actually, from that side.
How long you worked with the Builder.ai?
Almost 3 years. Yeah.
And last year it got bursted. So since then you started looking for a job, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your job search experience when you were just your company. In most cases, people are fired, but in your case, your company is fired. So you were jobless because of that. So, and being an immigrant in the UK, so what different options you first explored, and then how was your job searching was going on at the same time? Because you always think that back of the mind a letter can come anytime and you have to leave the UK.
Yeah.
So you must have been exploring all the options then. So just share a bit insights on that too.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that was a difficult time for sure. I mean, how I went about it would be, I firstly saw if I contacted a few people whom I knew, like previous clients or any other people whom I had networked during that time, to see if they had anything with them, like which was quickly available, go through the process, interview process, so on and so forth. And like, I was very fortunate that I had great colleagues in Builder who, even though they were looking for themselves, quite a few of them were like constantly and actively helping me. If they knew someone and they heard that this role was open, they would either send that to me or directly introduce me to them. And because of that, I got through two really good opportunities, you could say, towards the very end of those processes. And yeah, like you said, it was always on my mind, is that i I don't have a lot of time, because that letter could come in any day, and 60 days sounds like a lot, but sometimes it's not a lot, especially in the job market that was happening over there. So the first thing I did was I went with the quantity over quality at that point, because uh, I saw this first time when I did, like a couple of years back, is that it's a numbers game, getting a job, honestly, but irrespective of the market. I know people say quality is one thing, but every shot you don't take is a shot that you missed 100% basically.
Yeah.
So I went with that mindset. Obviously, I wasn't like blindly applying to anything. I would read the description, I would look at what the company, see if they had sponsorship. Where it was clearly no, then I wouldn't, but if they were like maybe or a yes, that is where I would apply. And I would also look at like how quickly or like how recent was this job posting, whether it was within the last day or the last week, meaning it's probably still active and it's not gone, like dead or something like that. And wherever possible, I was seeing if I could get a quick referral. Like I wouldn't wait for 2 days. If I get it within the day, fine, then I would take the referral and apply it through that. Otherwise not, I'll just apply it straightforward. And funnily, during the first couple of months, I got through enough interviews without needing a referral, actually, which was a good sign that, okay, my CV is working. I constantly kept updating it. I had it structured for a few different roles, not for every specific company, but different roles, because at the end of the day, you can only fine tune it so much. Otherwise, it just starts, you're just making wordplay, which doesn't make sense to me, at least. I'm like, I'm just wasting time at this point. And later on, obviously there's highs and lows during the HR recruitment period, I guess. Sometimes in a month I might not get an interview, but in the next month I would get a few interviews, which I was looking at them. The real turning point, I would say, is I after the first quality quantity blast that I did, I narrowed down more on what I actually wanted to do, because at that point, new roles called as deployment strategist or customer product managers were coming up, and companies were really looking for people who have that experience. And I would say I was in a really unique position where I had the customer side knowledge. I worked with the engineering team. I also worked internally with the product team, and also setting up the processes. So I started focusing on those, and I started to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I started to searching for posts which said we are hiring. Even, it's not even a job post, but people who have newly joined, or people who are just saying, hey, we are looking for this role or something like that. And that's how I just messaged a person on LinkedIn.
So let's wait to how you
Yeah.
found your new job. Let me ask you questions regarding your job search. So what was the feedback the employers were giving to you when you were getting rejections, or they were not responding in the earlier phase of your job search? So what was the feedback given by them?
As you know, you won't get a lot of responses. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it was really, really low. The number of times I even heard back, and even within those, most of it's like, sorry, we don't have sponsorship.
How many jobs you might have applied, like just a ballpark figure, and how many responses you might have got it?
I would say I applied probably to definitely more than a couple of hundred, probably around 300 to 400, I would say, including. Mhm.
In how many months?
Mm, at least 6 months, I guess.
Months.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Uh, because sometimes you could apply to a lot within a day, and sometimes they're like just days where you're like, nah.
So it's been a very good number, to be honest. Like 6 months, like 200, 6 months, like about 50 applications per month. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say I was doing definitely more than that. I don't have the numbers in front, but
Yeah.
definitely 300 or something for sure.
There were some employers they said to you specifically, just because you don't have a don't because we don't offer the sponsorship for this role, we are not able to give you the job.
Yeah, we can't move forward from here. Yeah, that's happened.
If I may ask, like which all ways you applied for these jobs, like LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor. What was your mode of applying for these jobs?
So I primarily stuck to the company sites, honestly. Like, yes, I would find the jobs some most of the times on LinkedIn. If there was a way, I wouldn't first click easy apply. I would rather go and see if this job is existing on their job board, because sometimes there's just too many applications on LinkedIn and they don't even give it a look. But if you
Yes.
actually apply from their job board, it gets goes into the system, they get notified, so on and so forth. And then I've also applied a lot through LinkedIn, like easy apply, if that's the, like, like recruitment companies who are like, I don't know what they're called, third party sponsors or recruiters, whatever it is. You apply through them, you sometimes hear back, you sometimes don't. So a mix of LinkedIn and the company websites, but other than that, I don't think I've used any other site for applying.
So you
I did.
didn't use the recruitment agencies like which you mentioned. You didn't use them.
No, I did apply for the roles that they were advertising on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I think I maybe used Hacker Job, but
Yes.
very few of those, just because I saw a couple of good roles. Um, Other than that, I mean, I did reach out to a couple of people to see if they had something for me at the recruitment agency companies, but they deal with so many of things. It just depends, and usually they have roles which don't need sponsorship. So I'm like, okay, fine, let me just stick to whatever I have in my.
So how much you think came from LinkedIn direct apply or through the website company website application, or perhaps you might have done DM to do some of the hiring managers as well or recruiters, HRs. So did you like what might be the like just a random number like a ballpark figure of those
Oh,
applications?
yeah, that would be difficult. In terms of like when I applied directly through LinkedIn, I would say maybe two to three.
Hmm.
When it was one of those recruitment companies who were looking for candidates, and I applied through it. That is when I had a phone call or a quick call with them. Uh, I would say a majority of my, not majority, a good like maybe 7 to 8, I guess I would say, if I had to put a number, were through referrals. It was either people who I already knew, who had worked with previously, or who I was working at that point and they had introduced me to someone, or I had reached out on LinkedIn. Maybe like 7, 8, 10 of those I got through to the interviews, and then the remaining whatever percentage was when I was applying through the job boards and getting through purely through applying. People say it's a myth that you don't get interviews without referrals when you clearly apply, but it works. Like if you are a unique match to that particular role, and
Yes.
you have made the CV in a way which you think will get you through, then there is a chances that you get them.
Interesting. All
Yeah.
right. So, meanwhile, when you are applying for these roles, you always must be having a backup option, or perhaps you might be thinking alternative routes. So, did you explore other routes for immigration in the UK, like global talent visa or innovator founder visa? Did you think that your profile can be suitable and you don't need a sponsorship, and that question might be going away for that?
Yeah, so yeah, at that point I had so many things running in my mind. So I was not really thinking of UK, like what other countries are there which like are booming in the space which I'm looking at. Sweden came up as one of them, for the AI companies. And in terms of the UK, we also spoke about the global talent visa, right? My
Hmm.
one hesitation towards that was that, like some of the requirements I didn't really have those, like a lot of researched, like published research papers or news articles. I was slightly hesitant in that aspect, or
Yes.
like, maybe not. So that is why I wasn't too sure when I was exploring those options. Like, it was in the back of the mind. I was like, yeah, this is something I can go with, but it wasn't like a first preference. Like it wasn't like, oh, I have to do this. It was like a backup plan, if at all. At the end of the day, it didn't work out.
Interesting. So Finland you explored as another country. Sweden you explored as
Yeah.
another country. Interesting. And did you do some interviews there or no?
No, I actually spoke with a couple of them. I applied to it. I didn't get through too much.
Mhm.
So that's why it never really became a solid option in that scenario.
Correct, correct. So, as you rightly said, like in the global talent endorsement, it's very important to have a good market recognition profile. So, your role, if you remember, we discussed that your role is quite like eligible, like because you were a
Yeah,
product, but you didn't had much market recognition, as you mentioned, news publication, research papers, the white papers. That is some very crucial for getting the endorsement for global talent visa purposes, and
yeah,
that's why I think you were lucky enough at the end that you were able to find a job instead of going back to home in India. So let's talk about you mentioned about when the product in the second phase where you were able to find product analysts, like what you said, product strategist roles specifically which were getting in demand. So how did this new job, like where you got now, how did you found that job, and how did you approach to the recruiter there?
yeah. Yeah, I would say just before that, like you mentioned on the global talent visa, right? Uh, so like if someone starts to think about it from like the start, then you can build it up over time, like how you had told me when you were on the call.
Yeah. Yes.
and
Yes.
and I was like, everything I've done is like it can very easily be made into a research paper, very easily a
Yeah.
news article, so on and so forth. It's just
Yeah.
that I'm like, I had never thought of it over the 3 years. So I'm like, doesn't matter. But if someone wants to have that option open, they can
Yeah.
just keep it. They can just get it done. If they use it, fine. If they don't use it, then also fine. But it's always there as a backup if you want to use.
And it's gonna help in their career trajectory as well, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, it does. Yeah.
it's more like you were building your personal brand around it.
Yeah,
So
your own portfolio of sorts.
yeah.
It will help you. There's nothing, no negatives to it in my
Yeah.
aspect when I think about it now.
Yeah.
Coming to the question that you asked, so there was this new type of role which was called a deployment strategist. This was a term coined by Palantir, and I hadn't heard of it before because I wasn't focusing on that aspect. But then I saw a couple of other companies, a company called as Sierra.ai. They had something like that. They had a role called as a technical program manager, which was very similar to this one. Couple of other companies like Cloudflare, Databricks, like the major AI companies, or the ones who are at the forefront of AI, started having these roles. And when I read the description, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I've done. Like, speak to the customer, understand what the requirements are, translate the non-technical requirements to your technical requirements, work with an engineering team to get those done, and then go forward from there. I'm like, this is exactly a role which I did in my past.
Correct.
And it's the advantage that I had was that I'd done the role, plus I'd built processes around that thing when I was working in my previous team.
Mhm.
So I'm like, yes, this is something that I should aim towards. So like those through two, three titles was something that I was keenly keeping an eye on, whether that's pure delivery, like just implementations management or something like that, or delivery manager or customer product manager. They're all different names for the same thing, slightly different, but almost a similar thing. And
Yes.
that's when I started looking at LinkedIn posts, like not just job posting, but like anyone saying we are doing so and so at the company, or we are looking to hire these kinds of roles. That is when I would either send them a DM, which could either be a connection request or an email. I had the premium account for that, just so that I could send them. And that is where it really started turning a bit more. And there was this one at Decagon, which I sent an email to the person on LinkedIn, and they reverted back and they're like, yeah, like your profile really matches what one of our roles could be. And she'll like, would you
She
like
was
to?
an HR or the main hiring manager
No,
who.
no, no. She was just in one of the other departments, and they were recruiting for an agent product manager, an implementations manager, and one other role which I'm not sure. And I was like, hey, I think my profile might be really good. I didn't post like I say this. I put down three specific points from my CV, like not from my CV, but made them into a very brief intro, like, hey, my name is Sunny. I've done so and so previously, and these 3 points I think really align with one of the roles that you're looking for. please let me know if you would be happy to refer me, or have a conversation, and I would share my CV along with it on them. And she's like, I think you would be great for one of the roles. Let me know if you would want to connect with the hiring manager. And I'm like, yeah, definitely. Why not?
So this person is a random employee working in that company,
Yeah,
right?
she's
So
just one of the senior product managers.
why
Yeah,
did you approach to her?
on LinkedIn through email.
No, but why did you approach to her?
She had put up a post saying, we are hiring for these three different roles,
Okay,
and
that's
it's really great at Decagon. And Decagon like was one of my target companies, you could say, within the AI workspace. And I was like, yes, let's. I was like, if she reverts, awesome. If she doesn't, then that's fine, because people sometimes revert, sometimes don't revert.
yeah.
And it went through really nice. The whole interview process was really good with Decagon. They were really fast, and it really matched. It was like similar to a founding role, you could say, for that particular team.
So how big is this startup, and tell us about the interview process. Like once he shared the this role, you can be suitable for this role. What happened from there on?
Yeah, so I think there are currently roughly 250 to 300 people in the company. I guess they started just 2 years back. They are, I would say, they're one of the two biggest companies when it comes to AI agents and customer support specifically.
Nice.
And in terms of what happened is, she connected me with the HR manager, basically internally, I would say. And I got an invite for the first round interview. And from there, it took me roughly 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks in total to get through the 4 rounds of interviews that was there for the particular role.
Nice.
And they were really nice. They mentioned everything, how the next round would be. They explained what would be expected in the next round and how you can prepare for it. It was, I would say, it was the usual. The first round was directly with the hiring manager, the second round with a member of the team and a take home case study. The third was a US style loop, like four interviews back to back, 30 minutes each, where I would speak with four different people. And then the final round being with the VP of the department. So that went through really smooth. I enjoyed that process, really had fun doing the task as well as speaking with all of them. And towards
Nice.
the end of that particular phase, I would say within 3 weeks, we had everything signed out, detailed out, all admin stuff done, which when it came to at least signing an offer. And then the visa process started.
Okay. Did you ask them? Do you guys sponsor? What?
Yeah, that was the question that I asked in the hiring manager on the first round. I asked, the interview went great. I just need to confirm whether you guys sponsor for this particular role. And
Nice.
she was like, let me just check with the team and get back to you.
Nice.
And when they got back to me, she said, yes, we are completely fine on that, so do not worry. And the fun, I would say, funny thing, or don't, like you could say, there's always a God's plan. Decagon had got their what do you say? The when I checked online, they had got the sponsorship very recently, like in 2026, in the first 2 months. So
Okay.
you have the list of sponsored, right, and you get a date when they are sponsored in that. So I was constantly checking it because applying for different companies, so on and so forth. And I
Nice.
saw that, okay, they have it. You could say it's like God's plan that after they had, because I'd been following them for a year or so, just looking at what they were doing. And when I got an interview, by that time they had the sponsorship in place. I was like, yes, thank God.
A lot of people will inspire or take learn from you how to apply for roles, and the kind of motivation required to keep yourself not drained out by making a lot of application and not losing hope. I think like a 6 months time period which you got, it's something which everybody will may not get, but the time period what they have is something how to utilize it and how to make a correct application, and the mindset, that is very important, because I've seen people getting trained out because of the little time they have, and
Yeah.
and finding a job in that time period is very difficult. Looking at the current immigration scenario in the UK,
Mhm.
not getting sponsorship is very common. So yeah. So any final piece of advice which you'd like to share or give your thoughts about it?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I would say don't be consciously stressed or burned out by it, uh, because you will be stressed at a subconscious level no matter how much you try to say no, because that's happened to me for sure. And depending on how much time you have, I would say the best strategy which I found is, it's actually a mix. I wouldn't say it's either one of them, but a mix. By you can apply to a lot of roles which not are not like your priority in terms of quantity, but the ones which you really want, go for, try and get those referrals, try and connect with people online. And you don't need to beat around the bush like, oh, I'd like to know how you do this or how you do that. Just be very focused, say what I've done previously in maybe 1 to 2 lines, and tell them you saw this role, or you saw their posting about the role and you'd like to apply for it. And don't wait for them to say anything. Attach your CV already in the first email, because everyone is super busy. They have their work, they get a lot of messages, emails, whatever it is. Giving them all the information briefly along with the CV upfront saves them time and shows them that you respect and value their time. And that is what happened in terms of how to apply or how to connect. And the second thing is, be ready to hear no on a variety of reasons.
Hmm.
It is not in your control, no matter how much you prepare or how well you think you have done, how well you match. There will be times where you are like, why is it not happening for me? Have patience. Like, this has probably been the biggest test of patience for me. And my support systems were my family and my close friends. Honestly, they were really positive, really motivating. My close friends in London, they would be like, "Do you just want to meet up? Just like randomly, just for meeting up, like nothing else. How is it going? Or just having fun, having lunch or dinner, whatever. Not spending too much, but just enough so that you get out of the house, you have some fresh air, you just focus, shift your mind for a bit. So I would say, try to distract yourself a bit if you can, by a bit on positive things, like whether it's going to the gym, playing a sport, or just meeting friends for a quick lunch, or just to get fresh air. And yeah, you're gonna feel bad, you're gonna feel upset, you're gonna be frustrated, but just be patient at the end of the day, because the tides do turn. And just believe that there's a plan for you.
Certainly, I recall like you were very regular with your sports. I think you used to play table tennis or
Badminton.
badminton. Badminton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very important to keep yourself engaging in other extracurricular activities. Like sports is the one of the best thing to keep a mental sanity. I think like to summarize, you said two things: be concise when you are approaching the employer, and don't bombard with all the information in the first email or communication. And second is keep a mental sanity. We understand it's a draining process, but it's important to distract yourself from the process itself and be active in their life, so they just don't lose all the mental capabilities they have, right?
Be like, keep reading news, trying to update your skills as you can.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think of it in this way, is that a job is like getting a job is like a backup plan, because you can always go and do a business or whatever else you want in this world.
Yeah.
Especially with AI right now, it's not that you can do anything. You can be a content creator, you can just go get a parking lot, make money from allowing other people to park on it. So
Yes.
so when I thought of it in that way, I was like, the job is just a backup option. There's so many things you can go and try. I do understand sometimes you can't fall back on family or friends or like that, but if you have that option, then don't be super stressed, but don't even be, we'll let it go. Don't be like that. Like, be somewhere in between, I would say.
Oh, yeah, makes sense, man. Like it's a good piece of advice. But yeah, thank you so much, Sunny, for coming on this podcast. Like we're trying. I just thought like this is something out of the box because I don't hear much news from people, specifically migrants in the UK. getting a sponsored job. So thought to have you on the podcast. But for people, rest of the people who are listening to this and they think they would like to, like Sunny said, if he got a chance again to start building up his market recognition profile for global talent endorsement. So please feel free to reach out to us. We certainly help you out in building your profile. We help you in doing the personal branding as well as guide you, coach you how to prepare for your global talent endorsement. We don't provide immigration advice. We are not lawyers or immigration advisor, but you need any coaching services like coaching support in your process of getting an endorsement, feel free to reach out to me.